Hello friends. So today we are going to learn about Spring Data JPA. So this video will be just a introductory part. I'm not going to go into the coding part in this video. I'll be just giving you a theoretical knowledge about what Spring Data JPA is, because most of the people do not know about Spring Data JPA. So this video will be just about the introduction part. Here in the notepad I have mentioned some of the points about which I will be explaining in this video. The first question is, what is prerequisite for learning the Spring Data JPA? So for learning the Spring Data JPA, you should have the knowledge about one of the ORM framework like Hibernate or OpenJPA, MyBetis, PostgreSQL, ObjectDB, etc. There are so many ORM frameworks. So before learning or adopting any new technology or framework, a question comes in the mind of a developer, like why he should go for this new technology or framework, right? So the same question applies to Spring Data JPA. Spring Data JPA eliminates the drawbacks of existing ORM frameworks, like if you use Hibernate or any other framework, then we have to open the session, open the connection, then open the transaction, then we have to write the code for manipulating the data of a particular entity class. Again we have to close the connection, close the session, and we have to do all these stuffs. These are the boilerplate codes, and you know that in each and every application performing the select operation, insert operation, update, delete, these are the very common operations which you have to write for in each and every application. So to handle all these scenarios, Spring Data JPA is introduced. So I'll be telling now what Spring Data JPA is. Spring Data JPA is one of the fastest growing technology which is used for writing the code of a persistence layer. It is a framework and it is not the implementation of a JPA, Java Persistence API. You know there are several implementations of JPA, like Hibernate is one of the implementation of JPA. JPA is just a specification. Another implementation of JPA is OpenJPA, Eclipse Link, PostgreSQL. Like this, there are ObjectDB. There are several implementations of this JPA. But Spring Data JPA is an abstraction on the top of existing JPA vendors. Like we can use Spring Data JPA with Hibernate, also we can use Spring Data JPA with ObjectDB or PostgreSQL or Eclipse Link. So as you know that we have to, in each and every application we have to write a code for insert, update, delete. Spring Data JPA has eliminated the DAO layer, because in the DAO layer we generally used to write all these codes. So now we will come across Spring Data JPA. I opened these two sites just to give you a brief knowledge about the Spring Data JPA. In order to use Spring Data JPA, we have to create a repositories. So how we will create the repositories is very simple. We have to create an interface, and that interface will extend the interface which is given by Spring Data JPA. For example, we can create an interface like my repository, and we can extend it from repository. We can extend it from CRUD repository or pagination and sorting repository or JPA repository. So in Spring Data JPA, the topmost interface or the central interface is repository. It takes two type argument. First one is the domain class and second one is the id type that will be used in the domain class, and that id type should extend serializable. CRUD repository with the sub interface of repository, which provides more sophisticated methods for performing the CRUD operations. Pagination and sorting repository extends CRUD repository, which provides much more methods like performing the paginations. If you want to do some pagination in our code, then we have to write a lot of code for that. So now we don't have to write all those codes, we just have to extend an interface from pagination, paging and sorting repository interface, and we will have the methods which are available in it. And last one is the JPA repository. So if we come across, for example, I've extended my class, my interface from the CRUD repository interface, then by default these are all the methods which I will be getting. You must be thinking about writing its implementation, so we don't have to write the implementation for this because Spring Data JPA will provide the implementation for it, and we will not have to write the logic in the DAO layer for saving an object, or if you want to find an object by passing its ID. It is a very common requirement in the application, so we can use find by ID method, we can use find all method. You can read the name of all these methods and you can understand the purpose of each and every method very easily. And the most important thing is that we do not have to write the implementation for all these methods. These are the methods which is by default given by the Spring Data JPA. If these methods are not enough, then we can write our own methods and we can use that. So the sub interface of CRUD repository is the paging and sorting repository, where we can just pass the new page request object and pass the records that we want to access. It will give us the 20 records. If the methods which are given by the repository, we don't want all these methods, we just want to be selective about the methods, we don't want to expose all the methods which is given by the repository interfaces of Spring Data JPA, we can just simply copy those methods and paste it in our repository interface. So we will be using just these methods, all the other methods will not be available to us. So there are so many things which is available in Spring Data JPA. So to get start with Spring Data JPA, we just have to copy this dependency and paste it in our pom.xml file. There are some benefits, some features of Spring Data JPA, like it allows us to create the repositories, and another feature is Query DSL. Query DSL is another framework which is used for writing the queries in database independent way, like Hibernate query language. It is a alternative for criteria and JPQL, and so it is a separate framework for writing for performing the any select operation like criteria or JPQL. There are so many annotations given by it. By using a direct query annotation, we can pass we can write our own queries. And to enable the Spring Data repository, we need to use a direct enable Spring Data repository. So this is the just introduction part about Spring Data JPA. And one more thing, the configuration part is very easy. We have to just write the we have to just configure the data source object like its username, password, driver class name, and database URL. If you have ever done any configuration in the existing ORM framework, then you can understand very easily. The configuration part is very easy. You have to configure the data source object. After that, you have to configure the entity manager object here in this part, and we have to pass the data source in the entity manager, and that we have to enable the transaction entity manager. So you can see here the creating the repository is very easy. This is the here you can see there is a repository, person repository, which extends JPA repository and JPA specification executor. Here lot many methods is written by using @query annotation, and some of the methods like get by last name string, these are the query methods which is given by Spring Data JPA. There are so many things which are available in Spring Data JPA. We'll go through all of them one by one. After creating the repository, what we have to do, the final thing is that we have to inject that repository interface in our service class, and we can use all the methods which are given in the person repository. So I hope you like this video. That was just an introduction part, and we will be going in the coding part in the next videos. Please subscribe or comment on this video. So I know there may be so many drawbacks in the video, but you can mention all those things in the comment. I'll try to make a better video in the next tutorials. Thank you for watching this video.